my conversation on one of my favorite topics, Northern Soul, and Andrew Madonio. He's our guest. He's actually involved. By the way, what is exactly your role in the movie?
Well, I'm not in the movie. I'm handling marketing, the marketing, and because the little film company who I'm working for, they're based out in L.A. They handle mainly distribution of foreign and indie film, and so I'm handling the marketing of the film.
Okay, and so you're working for the little film company.
Yes, for
which
Robbie Little.
By the way, you go to thelittlefilmcompany.com and you'll learn more. And I believe there's a trailer there for the movie. Make sure you check it out. It's such a cool film. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to it. I was having a chat with my wife, and she was watching me kind of geek out over the whole deal. She couldn't quite get it, but she was excited to see me excited. So that was, I think it's just an extraordinary, really just a neat thing to do, and for people to be able to capture and to capture that time. And it's funny how people do things, and at the time they do it, they don't really realize that they're really in to something that's memorable and something that's important until much later. And that's really the whole Northern Soul and Wigan Casino phenomenon.
Yeah. And you know what? The film really highlights one of the main aspects of the film that it's trying to get across is the fact that when this movement came about, life, and I never lived in England, but I want to go visit one day, but life in Northern England was very bland, very dull. It was very color scheme-wise. It's like a lot of silver and gray and, very much a blue-collar environment. And so Northern Soul kind of came out of desperation, and it kind of came out of desperation for something new, something fresh, something live. And so in the film, really, you see these two. There's two main characters, and you see their lives and the mundaneness of it, and them kind of following the pecking order with everyone else. And you see them kind of break free of that, and they start going to these vinyl stores, and they start figuring out how to mix and make this music and be involved with it. And you just see the effect it has on their life. And you can see probably back in those days, just the overall the happiness it brought to a lot of these teenage guys, and it was truly, like you said, very revolutionary for sure.
Yeah. I went to England often because of my mom, fairly often, and let me just say, first of all, Northern England is gorgeous because of how green it is. The whole country is really it's really like a gem. It's beautiful, but the buildings are older, and the working environment is extremely hard. People, getting to another economic level was virtually impossible, particularly in that region. If you want to understand Wigan Casino, it wouldn't hurt to read The Road to Wigan Pier, which was a great book by George Orwell. And it really talks about the squalor, the economic challenges, the hardships of growing up in northern England. And specifically, he focused on Wigan. And so, I know from, my parents, my grandmother, whom we stayed with, they had very modest means, but she was an extraordinary saver, and my grandfather worked really hard, and they didn't waste money, and
right.
And so, but you can see that there are really tough people, and you can just tell that, and so there's no question about it that the Wigan Casino was kind of like an escape for young people who were looking at a very difficult future as adults themselves.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly, and that's definitely one of the strongest themes in the film. And what's crazy too is as I listen to more and more music from the film and just Northern Soul in general, just that genre, I think my generation has taken it for granted because, like I said, I was born in '87, so when I was coming of age in the '90s and 2000s, I would hear a lot of that stuff all the time, either in movies or I'd hear it. At certain places for parties or even at dances sometimes they would play like some Motown type, swing type music. And I think we took it for granted. Whereas back, previously in the previous generations, it was just to watch the film, you can see how just new it was and fresh it was. And so it's really cool to see that, especially for someone like me to see where it all began, where it all started,
Yeah, no question about it. It's awesome. And by the way, I think the director I heard was from Liverpool. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, in Liverpool, for those not familiar, I say, shame on you. That's where the Beatles got started. And so, Liverpool is part of Lancashire, which is what Wigan is part of. It is much further west from, quite a bit west, but it's still, part of Lancashire, I believe. And very rough area as well. But whenever I went, I mean, they were from everywhere. We would even stumble on people from London. I'm like going, why are you from London here, to this place? You don't have anything in London? They go, we don't have anything like the Wigan Casino. And so it was just an extraordinary, it was a phenomenon. It was amazing. And so I'm glad to see.
Let me ask you this. Was it before the disco movement?
It got started in the mid-1960s.
Oh, okay, right. So it was, because disco was really hot and heavy in the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I was there in '78, I would frequent other, disco clubs, and there was none of them were like that. The disco clubs were kind of like U.S. disco club wannabe. There was nothing with its own unique signature like the Wigan Casino. About the only time I didn't go to the casino was because, other friends of mine that you always find people who are from where you're from, the United States. And so I would get other American friends, and they wanted to go what they were more comfortable with and more familiar with. So we'd end up going to the, more traditional discos. But most of the time I was going to the Wigan Casino. The Wigan Casino ruled. It rocked. We waited. It was not unusual. And what's so funny is I don't remember it, but I know that I waited upwards to an hour to an hour and a half to get into that place.
Oh, my gosh.
That the lines would go sometimes blocks. And so I would get there mega early and still find myself waiting upwards of an hour. And they, of course, had rules like we have, fire marshals like we have, and we'd have to wait till some left before others could get in. And that would be the other reason why we'd go to the other discos, is because we didn't feel like waiting for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
No.
It was just a phenomenon. Again, go to YouTube, check out Wigan Casino. Go to, again, the website for the movie. Give that one more time.
Well, thelittlefilmcompany.com, and they can also go to YouTube and look up the trailer for Northern Soul. There's I think there's about 2 trailers for it that kind of give you a feel of it. And
it's a great trailer.
And I encourage people, again, I know Rotten Tomatoes and reviews are a big deal these days before you see a film, and that's a good thing about it, is that it's done so well in the review section. So you can go to Rotten Tomatoes and type it in and read some of the reviews about it before checking it out. But I encourage everyone to come out. Like I said, you'll be there, and I'll be there, and we'll have a couple of local DJs who are there to talk. And then it should be a great crowd, and hopefully we'll have a good time that night.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing my experience. I appreciate you guys inviting me to speak. That'll be fun. But I'll keep it short because I want to get to that movie too. Andrew, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Check out thelittlefilmcompany.com and join me. What is it, September 30th?
September 30th, which is a Wednesday, I believe. September 30th at 7:30 p.m. is when the film starts. I would encourage everyone to be there around maybe 7, 6.
Did you get the 90-something tickets you needed to move on? Where are you on that?
We're at right now we're at 20.
Oh, right.
I believe.
We're going to get there. All right, buddy. Good to talk to you, man.
Nice talking to you. Have a good one.
You bet. When we come back, much more for you on The Price of Business.